So I've just noticed that it's 50 years ago to the day since Leeds United had the audacity, I repeat, the barefaced cheek to sack the great late Brian Howard Clough. Sacked him 50 years ago today after 44 days. What's that? 6 weeks and 2 days. 7 games, 4 losses, 2 draws, and 1 win. Um, that was after what he did with Derby County. You know, you probably could say his time with Hartlepool and Brighton wasn't too great, but who can forget that absolutely unforgettable chat that Don Revie and Cloughy had. Obviously, Don Revie left Leeds 74 to 7, so he went to England 77, and he was staunch Leeds man. He was from Middlesbrough actually, um, but there's a statue outside Ellen Road of Don Revie. He basically made Leeds United great, won everything with them, um, got them to a European Cup semi-final. Obviously, Celtic beat them, but he cleared up domestically. Couple of premierships. Well, wasn't Premiership then, but it was Division One. Charity Shields, FA Cups, League Cups, the lot. But Clough said to him in that chat, he said, "Don, I wanted to do something you hadn't done," and he did, in the shape of 2 European Cups. So he won his first one 79, and just to show how great he was, he won it again. And this was at a time when Liverpool were just the greatest team on the planet. And I always remember Alan Thompson telling me for his book when Celtic went to Anfield in 2003 and beat him. Thompson scored. He said Martin O'Neill, who was obviously a player for Clough, he did this amazing speech about how the old Forest team came to Liverpool, and um, he said it was the best speech I've ever heard in my career. He said I can't even remember it now. But yeah, Clough, a lad from Middlesbrough and Groville actually. But you know what? He was voted the third greatest manager in the history of football. Can't remember who was number two. I think it was some foreign guy, but Alex Ferguson was number one, and that's not bad, you know. And I'll just leave you with this: before the mighty Barcelona had one European Cup, little old Nottingham Forest, Brian Clough's Forest, had two. Um, winning the old Division Two and then going up again and winning the league, and never be done again. That I remember talking to Lee Clark at Christmas, and he said that will never. Obviously it's all about money now, but Forest were a tiny club really, and him and Peter Taylor just works wonders. And you just got to ask as a Leeds United fan, just imagine if you persevered. Yeah, what a character, what a man. So I'm going to be penning Middlesbrough's own. What's it about? The clues in the name. I personally think Middlesbrough don't celebrate Mr. Brian Howard Clough enough. They'll name schools after Captain Cook and hospitals after him when he buggered off to Whitechapel before he was killed. And um, yeah, yes, they've got a statue of him in Albert Park, but I think in my head he's certainly the greatest personality to come from them all. And Middlesbrough should probably celebrate him enough, a bit more. But I'm going to do this book straight after the Mickey Duff book. So yeah, there's a Facebook page on Facebook called Middlesbrough's Own Brian Clough. I'm going to put the link in the bio if you want to click on the page and follow it. And yeah, absolute the greatest. Football will 20 years, 20 years next week he's been gone, and football, in my opinion, lacks the characters of yesteryear, like Brian Clough and oh, um, Ron Atkinson's, and Ron Atkinson back in the day, and Alex Ferguson. They all knew Cloughie was the boss. Um, yeah, as I said, I'm not really any kind of England fan, but he should have had the job. But I think they thought they was going to take over, and they're probably right. He would have done. But yeah, what a guy, what a character, and what a success story. So yeah, 50 years ago today, and it's no secret because I've read Clough's books that he had proper, what's the word? He had real contempt for Leeds before the boss, uh, and some would say during. Obviously the Damned United was based on a lot of it. I mean, obviously, a lot of it was true, but for films, it gets stories get elaborated, and but the he certainly had contempt for Leeds afterwards, and that's why he took so much when he was sacked, cars and all this stuff, and he said I certainly had a Christmas that year. I'm sure he sacked about August, September as well. But and he gave a quote out. He said, Leeds United sacking me is a bad day for Leeds United, and it's a bad day for football." And if you look at what Clough did from 75 to, well, when they left Forest 93, I mean, even after the glory years, the European years, he was still winning League Cups and getting to FA Cup finals in 91. And he should have gone a couple of years after. And I remember talking to a reporter, and he said to me, Jamie, he said, I knew if I wanted an interview with Brian Clough, he said I'd have to go by 11, 12 o'clock. Otherwise, he'd be drunk by then. But yeah, Nottingham Forest, rightly, Forest have actually put a statue in the centre of the city. They've also named it the Brian Clough Stand. But I'm looking forward to go to Nottingham next year. I've never ever been, so I will be going there a couple of times a year and mingling. And I was talking to someone at work a couple of months ago. He was staying at a place where I was working, and he said it was one of my first jobs to go at the old Nottingham Forest ground. And he said before this was like 92, 93, and he said before I started the job, I got told by the secretary, under no circumstances must you speak to Mr. Clough or approach him in any way. He said the next day I seen him on the morning. I said, "Good morning, Mr. Clough." Anyway, the next day he was escorted off the premises. That sounds a bit of a bad story, but he wasn't himself then, and obviously, the drink had well by took its toll. But yeah, Mr. Clough, Brian Howard Clough, Groville, what a player as well. Retired 28, 29. Actually, in a day, I mean, he only got one England cap, but he was playing. He was competing against the greatest English striker of all time, the best Jimmy Greaves. Uh, he was the greatest. Never mind Rooney. Jimmy Greaves was superstar. I always think, obviously Jimmy Greaves was a bit of a alco in the 70s, and he would quite be regularly seen in Itchy Park, which is in Spitalfields, drinking with all the pissheads. And I often think, obviously he didn't play in the cup final, but the guy who did scored a hat trick in his place. So obviously Jimmy Greaves was this superstar, and the guy stepped in. I don't know whether Jimmy Greaves was injured or something like that, but anyway, and the guy who took your place scores a hat trick, and basically, gets what are we in now? Is that over nearly 50 years on? Is it 50 years on? Nearly 60 years on. And obviously the rest is history. But Brian Clough, did you ever meet him? Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your comments below. I did meet him, and I would love to tell you some kind of tale, but I didn't. But I was 15, and I just gave him my autograph book, signed it, and then that was that. Because in my head, I didn't realise how truly great he was. This was 95, so he'd just been sacked from Forest 93, and I just thought he was, I remember him winning the League Cup, Simod Cup, I think it was then, and FA Cup. I got the FA Cup with 91 against Tottenham, but I didn't realise where now I'd have fainted if I'd have met him. But that's always one of my biggest regrets, that not talking to him. But anyway, let us know your thoughts below. Brian Howard Clough.